We're good?
It wasn't an all-nighter at our house, but it was after midnight. I drove the boys to get a copy. Nobody could drive then.
Okay, so to get started, could you please state your name and a brief description of who you are in school?
Okay. I'm Karen Roper, and I am the CAS coordinator at Interlake, and am a parent of a student who went through the gifted program from second grade through high school.
So as a parent of a previous Interlake gifted student, what have your experiences been with your son? Have there been any specific instances of frustration or joy that you'd like to share with us?
I would not consider my son the norm. He was very self-motivated and very in charge of his own life. And he was happy like nearly all the time he was here. In his first few weeks of high school, he came home and said, "I love my high school." It was kind of the way it was all the way through. I felt like he had a great balance here of work, homework, opportunities, and extracurricular activities. He did debate, he did JSA, he did band, he did jazz band. He interned with an appellate court judge who's still one of his contacts. And he had a great experience here.
Clearly your son was very, very exceptional and very glad to see him continuing that experience in college. So how have you seen the gifted program assist him as he transitioned to college or into other stages of his life?
Well, one thing is that his class put together a Facebook page, and they stay in touch really well. They're each other's rooters and best supporters. I mean, he has made a lot of friends in college, but he still has friends from those days that he gets together with and stays in touch with, and I love that. I feel like his class was less competitive among themselves than some of the classes have been since then. So they were more collaborative and supportive, which for me it's been sad to see that going away. But I think a lot of the projects he did here with groups were amazing. They were, like we were talking earlier about middle school projects, and they were of that order where they went above and beyond a level of detail you would expect high school kids to do, which gave them competencies that their peers don't have. And I think that they have led to a lot of opportunities, like after his freshman year when he interned in Greece. And this summer he's going to be interning in Washington, D.C. for a appellate and Supreme Court law firm.
That's great, wow.
Which is, as an undergrad, is pretty exceptional.
So you've also been in a really unique position because you've been also not only able to observe your own son through his experience, but you've also helped and assisted so many students here in the gifted program through as a CAS coordinator, through college board, many other aspects. So what general trends would you see the gifted students, the gifted cohort have over the years?
One of the trends that I see that I'm going to go through some of the trends I don't like. The trends I don't like are focus on grades as opposed to learning, and focus on short-term goals. We have way too many students who think if they don't get into an Ivy League school, they might as well not go. When we know there's a lot of really good schools out there, and not every school is a good fit for every person. So I wish that were more open, but I think that a lot of the issues might be just because it's grown so much, and so there are so many more people to compete with. Like my son's class was about 40 students.
And we've like tripled.
Right, and it makes it a lot more of a challenge, a lot more competition among each other, among yourselves for what seem like limited opportunities when there really are more opportunities. But my main frustration is really with the attitude toward learning, that I've heard teachers in the program who maybe have then decided not to teach in the program anymore express that frustration too. How do you get kids away from focusing on grades and focused on learning?
Have you heard that same sentiment of too much competition from the students?
Yes. A lot of students will talk about that when they're applying to colleges, and they're paranoid's too strong of a word, but they're concerned because they feel like they haven't, done well enough. We're going to do away with class rank, which is helpful because it's not very meaningful anyway, but it scares a lot of people. My son goes to Harvard, and he was number 14 in his class. And I believe Carew was number 18, and she also goes to Harvard. They were in competition with all of those other kids because even then, people were still applying to all those schools. For some reason, they were selected. So it's not just about grades. It's not just about being, even though they were both straight A students, but it's not just about class rank. It's really about finding passions and being able to express that you have passions. And to me, that's what high school should be for. I think you might be asking about this later, but when we designed this program, that was one of our goals, one of our major goals, was to create what we called humane rigor, so that the students would be able to participate in things besides just going to class and studying. And we wanted students that could do sports and could do clubs and could run for class office or whatever, but people who got involved in things and found out what really motivated them and made them excited about life. That's what we were hoping for, and that's what we still hope for. I just sometimes wonder how successful it would be.
So you just mentioned that you've heard a lot of these conversations, a lot of this discourse coming up when students are applying for colleges in their senior year. Do you think that this is a limiting factor, as in students might be wanting to consider or contemplate what they're doing in high school earlier on or in other fashions?
Yeah, I think that we have too many, whether it's parent-driven or student-driven, we have too many kids who get focused on what they think is going to be the ticket to get them into college. And not enough kids who are looking at, what do I really love? Colleges want to know what you really love. This is a good time to find it out, and I would really like to see kids spending more time doing that.
Okay, transitioning to a different topic then. I know, again, you are very outstanding as a parent, like you're not a regular parent, but how effective are general parents in being part of the gifted education conversation?
Okay, now how can I possibly answer that?
Like, do you hear a lot of conversation among the gifted parents and communicating, oh, we have these needs, or we would like this to be heard by the administration?
We do hear parents, most of the parents who are vocal are the ones who have complaints. And most of the complaints have to do with too much homework or too high of expectations for grades. And yet we have a huge number, high percentage of kids that get straight A's, so how bad could the grades be?
Generally, these expectations created, do they imply that it's from the teachers or from the students, or?
The expectations, they generally imply it's from the teachers. I think that the students themselves probably drive a lot of it, but the parents aren't seeing it that way. They worry that their kids are spending way too much time doing homework. Again, I don't know that they really are spending as much time doing this homework, as homework is an excuse for why they can't do other things the parents want them to do. It's very hard to judge that because that's kind of an age-old problem and question, even back when I was that age, which was in the dark ages. It was still the, oh, Mom, I can't do that. I have to do homework. It's a very common thing to throw out there. But what happens is when the kids start looking at colleges, then again we get parents who think that their kids need to go to Ivy League schools And if they don't feel like their kids are gonna get into those schools, then they get very vocal about how this program was too hard, or it hurt their student in some way, that the implication being if they'd done an easier program somewhere, they would have gotten into an Ivy League school. In most cases, I don't believe that's true, but I do know that there are a lot of parents that feel that way. So I feel that the parents put in a lot of the pressure for the grades, the test scores, and I think that's part of what kills the desire to enjoy school, make it fun.
So typically when the parents do begin, for lack of a better word, venting about the program, what form do they usually communicate this to? Do they write emails to the coordinators, to the administrators? Do they just try to hold meetings together, or?
All of the above, basically.
Oh, really?
We have parents who email the IB coordinator, which is Mrs. Pendlebury, or the gifted coordinator, Mr. O'Byrne, or the executive curriculum director, who's Mrs. Couts, who used to be the principal of this school, and I get some, but not so much. The principal, we do get parents at scheduled meetings that want to come in and talk about their student. And it's amazing to me how every parent thinks their student is the busiest student in the world and therefore exceptions should be made for them. It's just, rather than working with the kids on how to set priorities for your time and how to develop good study habits so you can get things done efficiently rather than having it drag on for 3 weeks and then being up against the wall. I feel like we do a lot better if we put more emphasis on, we've been advocating since before this program began, that starting in elementary school, we start teaching study skills, because that's one of the most valuable things you can have when you graduate, is a good understanding of how and when to study.
Right.
Still hasn't happened. I feel like I got way off the question there. What was
No
the
problem.
question?
Regarding how are parents communicating?
So they communicate directly. They also just talk to each other, and then those are the ones I usually get hooked in on. Someone will send me an email, and they will have stripped off all the names of the people who said this, but it's like there's this conversation going on, and basically they want me to do something about it, whether it's share that information with the administrators or staff, or whether they think I can directly do something to solve their problem, I don't know. But they are almost always issues that have the nature of gossip, like the old telephone game where somebody said this and then it turned into this and then it turned into that, and pretty soon it's way different. So there have been some interesting things, everything from, we're going to do away with the PRISM program completely, disappeared off the face of the earth. And that's been a rumor off and on for years.
Wow.
To certain teachers are going to quit, or certain teachers are going to be asked to leave, or, the things will come up, and it's like I said, all of the nature of gossip, and very little of it based on fact. If it is based on fact, the fact was obscure and different than what it was interpreted as. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff that comes up. There's also a parent group called PAGE,
Parent Advocates of Gifted Education.
something like that.
I think I've seen
Yeah.
that group before.
Parents Alliance for Gifted Education, yeah. So, and they're, that's for parents of students at all levels of gifted and all evaluations. We used to have multiple gifted programs, and now we sort of like lump it together more. But all of those people have that route as well, but even that, people tend to, and they did this when we were creating this program, where I really first became aware of it, they tend to focus on what they think their child needs and what their child's biggest problems, concerns, the best approach to teaching them, whatever it is. And they would like to see the program changed to fit that child, rather than seeing that we have a fairly large group of gifted students with very diverse needs, and trying to address all of those needs at once is the only way we can do a program. So.
I suppose it is reasonable for parents to be selfish about their own
Absolutely.
children.
Well, I wouldn't even call it selfish. I mean, it's their child. They want their child to have the best experience possible. This experience was the best experience possible for my child. I was lucky. He was lucky. And it's not that way for everybody.
Do you think that positive feedback does come out of the parent conversation?
Sometimes. I think, again, people who have something to complain about are more likely to speak up, but every once in a while we hear some really positive, we get more positive from students and former students. Former students are kind of amazing. I mean, they will come back and visit, tell us how fortunate they feel. We have a former student who is now in the MD program at Harvard. She went to MIT. And
Kai Liao or?
no, I don't, Kai's not going to Harvard Med School, is she?
perhaps not.
Priyanka Saha is.
Okay.
You're gonna have to edit that out now.
Okay.
But, okay, so the student that went to Harvard Med School has frequently been in touch, and she commented a couple of years ago that one of the biggest shocks to her was that other people didn't have the kind of high school experience that she had, that they didn't feel connected, and they didn't feel like that was a place they wanted to go back and visit and have such fond memories of teachers and staff members who were such a big part of their lives. And it made her realize how lucky she'd been to find this program. She moved into the district specifically for this program.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really powerful, especially considering our own biases
Mhm.
as members of this community.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you tend to communicate with other teachers in this program? What is the parent-teacher communication generally like?
Most of the teachers make their email address well-known and encourage contact. Most of the parents, I don't think, use it. Not like they'd have a chance to answer absolutely everybody if everyone was communicating all the time. But it's a good resource. Because I was a volunteer around here a lot, most of my communication when I was a parent here, most of my communication was in person. And I didn't need to communicate very much because there were no issues for us. But I did make, and I hope other parents do as well, make an effort to occasionally send a teacher a note when I noticed some sort of homework assignment that was really amazing, or when I realized how much better of a writer, I care a lot about writing, that my son's writing, which was pretty decent coming out of middle school, when it reached a level in college that it was astounded me. I wrote a note to his high school English teacher saying, what you gave him was an amazing gift.
Mhm.
He can write at an adult and professional level that would astound most people, and it's really serving him well throughout college and well in his professional life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Teachers throw their heart and soul into this. A little appreciation is really nice.
Right. And I guess typically when we consider the gifted education community, the first ones to come to mind are like the teachers, administrators, the students, and sometimes the parents get left out of that picture. But really the parents do contribute a lot in their way as well. So as some concluding questions, what are the biggest concerns you see the program have going forward, and what do you think are the biggest benefits? Where do you think the future of gifted education lies?
High school's a little old for, having a PTA group. High school kids want to do things themselves. But there's an awful lot of things that parents are needed for, and I would like to see a more active parent group. Not trying to control it, but trying to support it. Because so many things like, even like the tests, all the tests that have to happen require proctors, and we're always looking for proctors. But a lot of the celebratory events as well would really benefit from parent involvement. And I think that that's part of what the students deserve, and the teachers, is to be celebrated because you're doing some amazing things. And so rather than just pass out awards at an assembly that's not very well attended, to have it turn into a real celebration. It's the kind of thing that when you were in middle school, parents would bring like goodies and things and they'd have a party. Elementary school, big on parties. High school, not so much. Why not? This is probably a more important time to celebrate than others. The direction as we grow larger is more difficult. I have concerns about the fact that people test into the program by prepping. It worries me because I feel like we're setting kids up for failure. If you had to study for the exam and retake it and retake it and retake it until you could get a good enough grade to pass it and get in, you're probably going to be struggling when you get here. And why do that to anybody? That's not in their best interest. So I would like to find a way to communicate that to families, that the best education for your child isn't the highest level of education available so much as it is the one that fits them best and find best fit.
The same idea that should be in their mind when they're applying to college.
Exactly. It's certainly true in high school, and we have a lot of high schools here, so it's not like you have to come to this one. And I think that, I believe parents should start young, encouraging their kids to love learning, but I think it could continue all the way through instead of yelling at a kid for getting a C or wanting to know what they got on every test, to really focus more on what are you learning and why is it interesting and how does that fit into the rest of the world. At our house, we always watched the news together, and I was not a news junkie, my son was. But especially on Sunday morning, we'd like to watch the, I can't remember who it was now, it's changed, but we used to watch the news together on Sunday morning, which was it was a discussion of politics type news.
Meet the Press?
No, it was before, earlier in the day was Meet the Press. It was the 9 o'clock in the morning. George.
George Stephanopoulos.
He does it now, but there was somebody before him.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, but it gave us a commonality of language and of interest that it still exists for us. And like I said, I was not a news junkie, I was not a political person, but I'm a lot more aware now. I learned that from my son, not vice versa. But part of us encouraging him to learn and be interested was to take interest and be part of. When he was, I don't know, I think it was in middle school or early high school, and had homework assignments, and we went on vacation, so I ended up reviewing all of his quadratic equations. I had not done those for a long time, so it's very much relearning it for me, but it's all important and it all has value. Sometimes it's hard to understand the importance and value, but if you make it about the grade, then it just becomes one more, loop to get through, and that's not in anybody's best interest.
Well, hopefully our parents will be able to mold us into lifelong learners, and then hopefully the students can give back as well.
Yeah, even a bad experience has learning attached to it, so just to look at it and see what you can get out of it. I don't know if I've answered your.
Yeah, I sort of went off script.
Yeah, that's.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that you think would be relevant to the discussion?
Well, I'm going to glance back down at my notes that I set on here. One of the biggest concerns I have about gifted education is it becomes an end to itself. That sort of ties into what we were just talking about. But I think that the biggest benefits of the program are the critical thinking skills, the social life that a lot of you guys would not have if you were in a regular high school, because you would be more of an outlier. And I really truly believe it's popular to be smart in this school, and you would not find that most places. So it's something that I hope you really enjoy. But I think you develop better social skills because of it. I mean, how can you develop social skills if you are the only one like yourself around? And I think that self-motivation is something that it takes to succeed in this program. I don't know how many of you realize that until it's too late. But that's way more important than being the smartest kid in the class.
Well, again, thank you so much for spending your time and speaking to us here. Really
Sure.
appreciate it.
I hope it was helpful.
Yes, very much.
And I do want to say we do have a lot of great parents who are helpful. I know I said some negative things about parents, but I also want to say that there are a lot of parents who pitch in all the time, and without them, this could not happen. So thanks for them.